Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm good, good to have you here. You grew up in Jacksonville, Florida?
I did. I did grow up in
Oh,
Jackson.
what was
I
that like?
I was born in the DC area, so Northern Virginia, and then moved to India, funny enough, in Switzerland, and then came back to Virginia, and then probably middle school moved to Florida. Jacksonville's rad. It's a great place to grow up. It's You got ocean, you got river. It's a pretty laid back lifestyle. Lots to explore as a kid. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
I actually lived in Jacksonville Beach for 1 year, Jack's
Really?
Beach.
Really? How'd you like it?
Well, I'm from Boston, and I lived in LA for like years, and I'm more of a northerner or a West Coaster. So Florida was kind of like, a little strange for me.
Yeah, it definitely was itching to get out, I will say. But looking back, I'm like, you know, I can, I can look back fondly. But would I ever live there permanently? Probably not. I'm, yeah,
I think you said you moved there when you were a teenager?
middle school. Yeah.
So you went to high school in Jacksonville.
I did. I did.
Was that hard for someone from the north to go to high school down there?
Yeah, I'd say. Like I went to a very nice school, but it's still the Bible Belt. So it can be a little bit hard for someone who leans a little bit more liberally ideology wise. It's harder for, a more progressive mindset in a town like Jacksonville, but I found my community and hang out with the theater kids and also was an athlete, so I stayed busy.
I had that same problem because I'm very liberal myself, so living down there was a little bit strange. But I survived for a year. Do you remember when you started listening to music? Was it before you moved down there, or were you too young at the time still?
I've always loved music. My dad and my mom always had a music playing. And I loved going to the CD store at the mall and elementary school and picking out a CD. And my first one was my first CD was No Doubt Rocksteady. So I was always listening to music. I was always putting on little performances for my family and my stuffed animals. And then I joined chorus in middle school, was when I really first started singing and fell in love and never stopped.
Was No Doubt like one of your first early bands that you dug?
Oh, for sure. I mean, if it's your first CD, you're gonna have a particular fondness for it, and it's a great record. So, I think No Doubt and Gwen Stefani has always had, an influence on my sound. I think especially in the music I'm making right now. You can definitely hear that kind of vinyl texture that and I pull into the music. So, and I definitely would nod to Gwen Stefani for that influence.
Was there anyone else that you were listening to a lot that really affected you back then when you were a teenager?
Um, oh gosh, a lot of indie sleaze. My sister had a really fun, obscure um, indie palette, and I think that definitely influenced me a lot. Trying to think of who was pretty good, who was pretty big. Okay, listen, I mean, like this is mainstream, but like the Yeah Yeah Yeahs was definitely on heavy rotation.
Yeah.
Um, oh yeah, just very much an indie rock kid. So, always listening to pirated music on my iPod.
I know from your reading all about you and learning your history is that you've done a lot of different things, and I want to talk about all of those, things that you did. But when did you remember that you like singing when you started singing? You said you were in the chorus in high school.
Middle school, yeah. Yeah, of course. I was definitely a chorus kid. And I loved doing like plays and musicals and stuff like that. So that really that continued through my high school experience. And then I went to college, and got a degree in music. Um,
Oh, George Mason, right?
yeah. So studied classical and jazz voice um, and got my minor in music technology. So I have some pretty basic understanding of how the equipment works, I'd say. Um, but yeah. So I've chorus kid, musicals. I was a big theater kid. So yeah.
And you played tennis in college. Now, was George Mason D1?
Yes,
So wait, to be on a D1 tennis team, did you get recruited?
I did. I did. I was very fortunate to reach a pretty high level and was recruited by some really great schools. And George Mason just felt like the right fit, and they also offered the most money. So, it's very much part of the decision for me, as I wouldn't have been able to go to school had I not had a scholarship. So,
That's an excellent school too. I was there one time with when I was working for A&M Records. I remember I went there with this duet I was working with, Jacko Pierce. They had a gig at George Mason, and I was with them. We had a lot of fun at that school. It was cool, really nice place. Um, so did you play 4 years of D1 tennis?
I played 3 years actually. My fourth year, I kind of took a hard look in the mirror and was like, I'm putting a lot of time into tennis. I've always put a lot of time into sports. It's been a major passion of mine, but right now it's still very much driving driving my life, and I'm coming here to learn how to sing. I'm at school to study music. The ultimate goal is to be an artist. So how seriously can I take myself as an artist and pursue that if I'm spending most of my time on the court? So it was a very hard decision, but I decided my senior year I was going to, okay, you got everything you wanted to out of tennis. You've reached your goal. You've checked that box. Dream accomplished. Now let's fixate on the bigger picture. So I stopped playing and just I focused more heavily on music and trying to set up the next step for myself, career wise. And I'm very grateful I did. It can be hard to let go of something that you've spent so much time and blood, sweat, and tears dedicating yourself to. But it was time. So
Were there ever any aspirations of going pro with the tennis?
in high school, briefly, but I started my tennis journey quite late comparatively to a lot of other kids
Mhm.
who with the aspirations of going pro. If you want to go pro as a tennis player, you have to make that decision at around 7 years old. And I made that decision at 11, which even then, um, had a lot of coaches and people saying, you're too late. You're too late to even seriously consider playing in college. You're 11 years old. You've missed the bus.
Wow.
Yeah, it's tennis is a very time consuming and very technical sport. So you need to be if you want to reach the highest level, you got to spend at least 4 hours a day, at least.
Was there resistance from your coaches when you decided that you weren't going to do it your senior year?
No, no. I think there was some I wouldn't say resistance. I think it was just a good decision. And, ultimately, like, you're at school not to play tennis, you're at school to be at school and to learn and to further your education and develop yourself as a human. So I think ultimately, my coach appreciated that, and I'm sure was sorry to see me leave, but was very supportive nonetheless. So.
Did you do a lot of traveling with the tennis team?
It feels like a full-time job. well, I wouldn't say full-time job, but you're spending, about 5 hours a day with this team, with your teammates on the court. Um, you have group fitness. It's not just playing. It's the workouts. It's
Yeah.
it's meetings. There's a lot that goes into it, and if you want to do anything really, really well, and play at the highest level and play college tennis, you are very, very dedicated and spending a lot of time. So there was a lot of travel for away matches and whatnot. Spent a lot of time on a bus and in a van. But it was really a wonderful experience. I think I learned a lot, mainly as far as discipline and what it takes and the work that goes into reaching the highest level of anything. You can't escape the work. There's no shortcut in athletics. It's you and what you're able to do and all the training and time, the 10,000 hours you've put into it. And there's no escaping that. And I think I take that lesson and that knowledge and I apply it to everything I do. And I think it's really made a world of difference. And so, what sometimes can look like a shortcut to other people is really just hustling like mad, behind a curtain and then showing up and performing and being a fucking rock star and blowing people away. It takes a lot of work. So,
I love your attitude. You know, D1's no joke either, so I had to ask you about that because you just don't get on a D1 team just because you're average. You know, you got to be pretty good. If I get a little confused with some of the order here, just correct me. Now, I know you got involved in comedy and you had an SNL audition. When did that happen? Was that after
so
college?
Yeah, so after college, I started working at a recording studio in the DC area. And I was a receptionist and an assistant engineer. And I really enjoyed it, but then I also kind of got burnt out a bit, and kind of had I wouldn't say an identity crisis, but I seriously considered, is this the world I want to be in? Do I want to work in a studio? And at the time, after spending some time doing it, I'm like, I don't want to be an engineer. Like, I love making music, but what I went to school for doesn't really feel like what I want to do ultimately. So I stepped back from my music career, moved from DC with my partner to Seattle, and started falling in love with music again and writing. And I wrote this comedy song, um, called "My Cunt, Retis of Thee," an ode to reproductive rights in America. And I was like, and I wrote it on a ukulele and like, honey, check this out. And he's like, this is fucking hilarious. We should go do a comedy open mic. Like, let's go try it out. And so I went to this comedy club, um, in Seattle called Comedy Underground, and they loved they loved the song so much. The manager came up to me after and said, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Do you have 5 minutes? Like, do you have a 5 minute set? You want to come back tomorrow for like our Seattle's best?" And so it's like a so I got invited to come back the next day and do 5 minutes. Like, yeah, I got 5 minutes. I did not have 5 minutes. I sprinted. I just wrote something super fast the day of, and it was cute. Like, it was funny. It got good reception, but the song still is very much like, the crowning jewel of what I was coming for. And they loved the 5 minutes. Like, that was fantastic. You want to come back on Friday and do 7 minutes? I'm like, sure, why not? Did not have 7 minutes. Again, just like fake it till you make it. And so I just, honestly, that just kept happening. And people just kept asking me to do longer and longer sets till I had 45 minutes and was headlining in some random town in Washington. So I didn't really choose comedy in the moment. Comedy chose me. And I just kept writing silly songs, kind of like a Bo Burnham-esque or like Weird Al esque set. And I'm like, throw my name in the hat for some festivals. Why not? And so 2019, um, I applied to a bunch of festivals. I submitted my set, and I got into five of them, which was really cool.
Yeah.
But then the pandemic happened, and they all got canceled except one.
Ugh.
Uh, but I placed as a quarterfinalist in the San Diego Comedy Festival. So it was really fun. Comedy, but even then, and then you asked about SNL. I started working for this high profile comedy talent manager named Barry Katz, who is still a very dear friend and mentor to me. Um, but he uh, he asked to check out my stuff, and I showed him kind of my impressions and some of the stuff I did, my TikTok, which was popping off at the time. I was doing like musical parodies of movies, and they were really dumb, but they were crushing. They were like, I was getting like 500,000 likes on every
Wow.
video, millions of views. I'm like, sweet, all right. um, but so he checked it out. He's like, you got you got what it takes, kid. We made an audition video, and he submitted it to SNL, and they gave some really great feedback and invited me to audition again, and I just never did. 'Cause
Really?
they said she's got a lot of like I could see why we can see why you like her. Her delivery is great. We'd love to see some updated writing and think she could improve her writing. And I just at the time, I don't know. I think I was just falling in love with music more. I was kind of thinking hard about like what exactly I want to do and follow the fun. And I mean, SNL would be a dream, but is it really my dream? Um, and yeah, so then I was like, okay, well, what's the next fun thing to do? And I kind of felt like I don't really want to be in the stand-up space. Like as much as I enjoy it, it's not a stage that I can feel like I can really let go on.
Hmm.
When I think about the best comedians, they are so comfortable and loose, you know, on a comedy stage. And comedy is not for the faint of heart. It's really fucking brutal, actually, which I learned a lot from. It's definitely given me thicker skin. But you have one night where you're crushing it and everyone is just pissing themselves laughing, and then you tell the same jokes the next night at the same venue with a different crowd, and it's just crickets. So I was like, I don't know if this is for me.
Was this
uh
all in Seattle, all this was happening?
LA, I forgot. Yeah, so during the pandemic, me and my partner's job went remote, and we like, let's do the damn thing. Let's move to LA. We can be anywhere right now. And for my day job, I was a tennis pro. I was teaching kids and adults at a nice tennis club, and I can do that anywhere.
Oh, so you still had a job in
Yeah.
tennis.
This whole time, like after like graduating and stuff, after I left the recording studio, I'm like, I need to pay my bills, like, and tennis pays well. You develop a skill like that, and people will pay. And it's tennis is one of those sports where like, people
Yeah,
stand
I
behind.
get that. So you moved to LA during the pandemic. That must have been interesting.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty easy. I mean, like, it was like we moved down to Long Beach, and about 6 months later, maybe 9 months later, I can't remember the exact time frame. The 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 restrictions started lifting, so you could start going to restaurants outside. All the whole town, every restaurant had an outdoor patio, like makeshift setup. They blocked off part of the street in Long Beach to make room for more tables. It was really cool. You still wear your mask, but like it was so different than Seattle. Seattle, at least where we were living, is with the weather and just kind of I maybe where we're at, it just really wasn't walkable. There wasn't like a lot of there wasn't a great sense of community, and I don't know if that was just because I was in stand up and stand ups, in Seattle, not just stand up, but just Seattle in general has this reputation of being really cold and kind of hostile. Like you have the Seattle freeze, they call it, where it can be really hard to make friends. So coming to LA and seeing all these people, around, like there's a sense of community again after being, locked in for so long. And even if you're just social distancing at a restaurant, it was like, wow, this is the best thing ever. This is really
Mm.
wonderful. Um, and that's when I started, and then the restrictions all lifted, and I started working for Barry um, in Malibu, which was quite a hike from Long Beach. But
Wow, I'd say. Okay, I lived in LA for a long time, and that is a hike. You took the 405 freeway to work?
it was for like for about like a month. I was driving
Oh.
4 hours a day. I was 2 hours up, 2 hours back. I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I had never been closer with any of my friends and family. I was calling everybody for entertainment on the drive. But we moved then up to Woodland Hill, so it was easier.
Oh,
And then
okay.
and then and then yeah, that was a really fun experience. Realized I didn't really want to be in comedy, and saw a job listing for a production coordinator for an animation studio, and I'm like, music, comedy, sitting in my pajamas, like, it was remote. I'm like, this sounds perfect. Let me go do this. So I started working for this animation studio called Baboon Animation. It's really great. They've done some really great work. They got tons of Emmys and whatnot. Um, and uh, and that kind of allowed me to focus more on my social media, my TikTok at the time. Um, and then also, I mean, I've always been curious about voice acting, and found that animation is one of the most limitless mediums to create. You literally have no limitations. It's just what you can do with your voice and what an artist can do with their hands. And um, yeah, and so I went down that rabbit hole for a while and worked my way up to overseeing the whole voiceover department, which was cool.
And
Uh,
that was all remote?
yeah, that was all remote. The pandemic really shifted the industry to be more global in the sense that talent was no longer focused in the studio, but rather at home. It was probably one of the most pandemic friendly entertainment avenues. So this company that wasn't remote at first went remote, and as did most other, voice studios. um, the responsibility for good audio and professional audio shifted from the studio to the talent, and that's why I've got something like this, and it realistically never changed. You have um, most studios are still, and most casting calls are still primarily remote. So it's a really great industry to be in, especially if you're pursuing something like a music project or a rock band,
Uh,
because you know
Correct me if I say this wrong. Marike?
Marijke,
Marika.
yeah, Marijke.
So when did Marika become Mickey?
In Long Beach, my brother sent me a belated birthday gift about like a month and a half or so after. But that was a red hat, this like burgundy kind of denim washed hat that said "McRib is back," and it tickled me, and I'm like, this will be my whole personality now. And that year, I wore that hat almost every day, and I'm like, what's my stage name gonna be? Because Marika is a mouthful, and you get really tired explaining it. And at what point does a complicated name become distracting versus just being able to say, I'm Mickey. Oh, you're gonna remember Mickey Rib, Make Rib is back versus Marika. The spelling is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't know if I could pronounce it right when I wrote it down. I was Okay, I'll try.
Yes, you're really close. So yeah, I went just like Mickey Rib.
So you
And
were Mickey before you were in a band, basically.
yes, yes.
Okay, so how did you end up in Austin, Texas?
Well, so while in LA and working for this remote studio, I joined a project, a ska, well, I guess we started a ska project by listing. I'm gonna start the sentence over. While in LA and working for this animation studio remotely, I really wanted to get back into music and wanted to find a or join a band and met some really cool people and started a ska project, started a ska band, really kind of leaning into that No Doubt Gwen Stefani
Yeah,
vibe.
yeah.
And and had so much fun with that. Naked Afternoon was the project's name. We played one show and then essentially I kind of looked at my career and what I was doing and what I wanted to do um and just thinking about how demanding a place like LA is to not only survive but to invest in your passions. And I'm like, I'm working remote. um it's does it make sense to really be here if I want to pursue. I'm gonna start this sentence over because I kind of got a little bit. So cut this. You're gonna cut this part out. And we're gonna start fresh right here. Um,
Probably not, but it's okay.
oh no, you have to. Okay. So, looking at my career in LA, I wanted to be okay. So I had risen very quickly at this animation studio. I was pretty much on my own island with one of my coworkers who also worked with me at Barry, worked with me with Barry. Um, she's a very talented producer named Michaela, and we had just really taken over this voice department at this studio, and we were operating as our own separate island, and we're like, we're crushing this. Like we are crushing this. Like we're very quickly becoming the darlings of animation. Let's start a business. Let's do this by ourselves. Like we literally have very little supervision. Our clients love the work we're doing. We're starting to make a name for ourselves. Um, I want to be somewhere where we can have a little bit more flexibility to invest in this. Um, let's pick a city and set up shop and let's do it. Let's be animation producers. Let's run our own studio. And so we looking at cities and we're like, how about Austin? Austin's got a great music scene, can still pursue music and rock while also having a little bit more flexibility to start a small business and have a little bit more space to spread out. All the talent is remote anyway. It seems like a cool, weird town. Let's go check it out. We went and visited, loved it, decided, yeah, let's do it. 3 months later, we moved down here. When we were crushing it, we were traveling to go to all of these conferences, which is where you get most of your business anyway. You don't have to be in LA, and even if you're in LA, you're still hopping on Zoom.
Hmm.
So we moved to Austin. We were growing quickly. We were getting really great clients, and then we kind of looked at ourselves and we're like, are we happy doing this? Like, do we want to do this? Because if we want to crush it in animation, it has to be the only thing we do. You have to put your all into it. You have to put your 10,000 hours. You can't half-ass two things. You got to do one thing really, really,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
And as much as we loved these shows that we were working on, um, the ultimate dream was not to be a producer. It's not to produce cartoons. Animation was just kind of a fun thing we fell into and got some success in. And when you get success and momentum in an industry, it's hard to not follow that momentum and pivot your views and your dreams to fit the success that you're having right now. And so we were like, this is not ultimately the goal at the end of the day was to be in a to be an artist, to be a musician, to voice act. And at the time too, I was getting a lot of work voice acting and less on the production side, and it's a lot more lucrative, and and you can spend a lot less time focusing. You spend a lot less time and make a lot more money as a voice actor than as a producer. So, and she wanted to focus on her writing, um and so we were like, let's not do this anymore. And so we kind of just pivoted from really being overtime animation producers to following our passions. And at the time, Mickey and the Doom was really starting to get more momentum and traction. I'm like, I'm going to focus more on this than I am on animation. So I still voice act, I still get work in that direction, but I'm not like killing myself to grow that career.
Talk
So
talk about the origin of Mickey and the Doom. Did you like put ads up at, I don't know,
yeah,
Waterloo or somewhere down there and all of a sudden attract people? How did you get the band together?
I made a Craigslist ad saying crazy, crazy lady looking to start a project or front, a band. Um, Posted a couple videos from my ska project, and I connected with someone named Morgan, who was one of the original Chapter One collaborators on this project, and sourced people to join the band, and yeah, and it's evolved a lot,
You've had a lot of different members, haven't you? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What started as a group, kind of like we're all in this together. You might set out with expectations and a goal, but then what ends up happening can change, and interests and passions and ideologies change as you get to know each other. And ultimately, we just had creative and philosophical differences, um and yeah, and love
Is you,
them, wonderful, but yeah, we went our separate ways. So
so is it more like a solo project for you with a backing band? Like, are you running the show pretty much?
yeah, I'm the sole investor in this project, and
That's what I thought.
yeah, which
What?
uh which honestly, I'm very grateful for kind of the hurdles and headaches throughout this process, because it's taught me a lot about holding strong boundaries and understanding that the chaos or any conflicts that have arisen are not because of malice, but um because I didn't hold strong boundaries. So
Well, having been around bands my whole life, I can tell you that it's hard to keep a band together. It really is. I'm sure you found that out. Can you talk about the songwriting process?
yeah. So I there's a lot of different ways that I write. Some songs in our set are completely formulated, like I'm the sole songwriter.
Music and lyrics?
That like I will like Petty Girl Anthem, which is the opening song. I actually wrote in 2018 on a DAW. So I just hand plucked all the notes and stuff like that.
Wow.
And then I brought that to a friend and very talented producer and writer in town named Benji, who is half of the band Slender Bodies, and he helped me, take what I had written and make it fit a five piece. Um, some of the other songs, like the debut EP, like Garbage USA and Peaches in the Desert, I top lined. So my former collaborator, co-writer, sent me a demo, an instrumental demo, and I wrote on top of it. Um, Same with Garbage USA. I For me, it's kind of a lottery of what comes first, lyrics or melody. Um, Oftentimes, I think lyrics are the driving force of my process in the sense that I like to keep a log of what I call crunchy words and just interesting sounds, words that have either interesting meanings, but more importantly, just like have a very tingly sensation when you hear them. And if you make this long list, whenever these ideas and these words come to you, and you just have this list of, cool sounds.
I love that crunchy words. I love that. Uh, you know, there's a segue here, and you already started on it. Garbage USA. I was going to ask you about that song because li- I listened to it several times over and over again, and I trying to figure out what's going on. So I'd like to hear in your words exactly what you were thinking when you wrote that one.
So that Garbage USA essentially was a is inspired by an identity crisis sitting in traffic in LA. I just left
Good.
LA. You're at a place where you believe is the mecca of the arts, the place that you have to be in order to make your dreams come true. And sitting there feeling so drained, uninspired, but also, still very inspired, but just thinking, what the fuck am I doing? When I heard the demo, the instrumental, the guitar wailing just immediately reminded me of, you know, horns as they pass by the like,
Yeah.
um, and this idea of, driving in LA and always seeing mattresses on the freeway and just thinking, always imagining myself like laying on that mattress in the middle of a 5-lane highway and what kind of thoughts go through my head as far as you have some days where you get a win, you get some traction in that town, and you're like, this is the most beautiful, sparkling place in the world, in contrast with, um, with contrast with the incredible amount of trash on the just everywhere, whether that be, literal garbage or, some not so great people, but just really, I think it was just kind of a song about confused heartbreak, because you have some of the most beautiful people and artists and incredible culture and beaches and money and luxury right next door to, you know,
The garbage.
right next to garbage. And so it's like this place is a beautiful, sparkling dumpster fire. Um, so and I think the music really mirrors the lyrics in the sense of you have this calm, wonderful, beautiful section in contrast with burn the fucking city to the ground. Fuck it all. Like I hate it here. Who am I? So it's just kind of that cyclical panic attack and identity crisis. And I think to really boil it down is you're sitting in traffic with hundreds of thousands of people who want the exact same thing you do, and you're all trying to go the same direction, but you're in gridlock. So, what goes through your head when you're in gridlock and it's hot and you've been sitting there for hours? You want to burn the city to the ground, but then you're also so happy at the same time.
Having moved to LA when I was young to make it in the music business, I can relate very well to your whole LA experience because that's what it's like. It's beautiful and it's garbage too at the same time. I had this is a little out of order, but when I was going to originally talk to you, you had just played a roller derby event. And I thought that was interesting, and I want to ask you about that. What was that like? Did you play while they were doing the roller derby, or was it before or after, or
So we played two 25-minute sets. We played before the show, before the event, so while people were coming in, and then we played halftime, and then we kicked it and watched some chicks beat the shit out of each other on roller skates.
was it a good gig?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. It was at the Expo Center here in Travis County, so it was definitely the biggest, one of the biggest venues we've played. And there were probably about 1,000 people there, which was cool, and they were super.
Nice.
I think our sound really, um, really was fitting for roller derby. So it was a lot of fun.
I haven't been down to Austin in a while. I used to go there a lot regularly. I was there working on a movie once for a month, but that was in the 90s. Um, is it still like Sixth Street's really happening and there's a few other good clubs? I know it's gotten really populated down there. How do you feel about Austin in general as far as being a musician there?
Austin's really cool and quirky. I think people here are doing their own thing and, they work hard for their art, but they're not trying too hard to impress anybody except themselves and create things that inspire them and do cool shit. And I think that's really cool. I think right now, um, because it is so populated with artists, I think there are more musicians than there are music goers here. So that can be a particular challenge. But the scene here is really cool. Everyone's really, really nice. There's a great sense of community. Um, and there's a great sense of support. I'm very grateful to see so many familiar faces at every show. There are people here who invest in the arts. They come, they buy the tickets, they buy the merch, they support online, they tell their friends, they bring friends, and that's really, really lovely. And I think that's all anyone can ask of a scene is come, have fun, let loose, just be with us for this night. Thank you for choosing us as your way to relax and connect with yourself and have some fun when there are so many other incredibly talented bands and projects in this town. So anytime, anyone walks through the door, I'm just really, really grateful. So
Do you spend a lot of time going to shows or you're too busy working with all your voiceover and other things?
I wish I could get out to more shows. There are a lot of shows I really want to go out and see. I work like 80 hours a week, so it can be pretty hard. Music ain't cheap, and there's a lot that goes into investing into this, and there's also a lot that goes into the back end. That's not just social media. Um, there's a lot of work that people don't see, and so I wish I could get out to more. I try to get out to one show a week. That's not like the bill I'm on. But but it can be really hard because uh you're just exhausted at the end of the day, and I'm like, I want to lay horizontal.
I
Um,
really didn't know what to expect when I was going to talk to you because I can only go by listening to the songs and watching the live performances. It's a little bit chaotic, you know what I mean? I mean, I think you have a very chaotic approach, and you just don't know what someone like you is going to be like when you talk. You're really intelligent. I'm like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. Okay. You've worked in comedy, animation, you're doing this music thing. Are you borrowing heavily from everything and putting it all together when you look at the way you're approaching the music career now?
I think that all of my adventures and all of my passions and pursuits definitely are coming together to make the perfect warrior to tackle this industry. I think I come from it from an athlete's perspective. I come from it from a boots on the ground perspective. Uh, there's a lot of discipline. I look at music as a sport. I'm a high performance athlete, and I need to take care of myself. I need to, preparation is everything. It's going into war, even though this is a creative, community focused um, industry, going into war against, I won't say not against anyone, but really just to achieve goals. You have to treat every goal and every step as a battle. And so being able to have an arsenal from animation, from tennis, from comedy, and be able to take all of these skills that I've acquired. I think the timing is perfect. Stage skills, you know, crowd work from stand up, social media from, doing dumb little musical sketches on TikTok, um, working for someone high profile, even though, albeit not in music, but understanding, um, you know, the business side is very important, and understanding that as much as I'm here to let loose and have a good time and express myself and to be wild and chaotic, I'm only able to do so because I have my house in order and I run a really tight ship. The tighter the business is managed and handled, and the more effort and work and time I put into setting up myself and everyone who's betting on this horse, setting them up for success, the more wild and chaotic I can be, and the more fun and loose I can create, and create a safe space for people to come and be wild and free. But I think that is only possible because I run a really tight ship and I suffer no fools. And because I've had experience having my heart broken, making mistakes, handling things in a way that, could have been handled better, and just learning a lot and being formidable, um, and understanding that ultimately the only reason why anyone is betting on me, or anyone, um, you know, is is putting their chips on me, or getting involved, is because of my instincts and my confidence, and making sure that, you know that ultimately that's what it's about, is because of the way I'm doing things. And I'm really lucky and I'm very fortunate to have a lot of really cool people in my corner, and in our corner, because it is very much a team. Like, for example, um, like our debut album coming out was co-written by an incredibly talented Grammy nominated, Emmy winning co-writer and producer, who essentially has and other people in the industry who go out of their way because they see what I'm doing, and they see how I'm handling this, and they see how I approach this with a very, very strategic mindset, and feel confident that the time they're putting in is I'm going to take their help. I'm going to take what the mentorship they give me, and I'm going to carry that forward in every stage and step of my career. Um, so yeah, I'm very grateful for all the experiences I've had in so many different avenues, and being able to take it, and apply it to this project, from a producer's standpoint, from a comedian standpoint, from an athlete's standpoint, come together and charge ahead. So,
I'm impressed. You're like the total package for sure, and I'm betting on you. If that's what you're looking for, I'm betting on it. A lot of people come to me through publicists. You didn't come to me from a publicist. I found you online and I wrote you. And I was happy when you wrote me back and you said you'd come on the show. And it took us a little while to get it together, but now I know why, because you're really busy. So, thank you for doing this. And I wish you nothing but the best. I think you've got an incredible attitude.
thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me.
My
Um,
pleasure.
it's really lovely to speak with people who are so passionate about artists, and give us platforms to talk about the things that I don't think are always in the forefront of people's minds when they come across a crazy lady on Instagram.
Yeah, you're not what I expected at all. I gotta be completely honest with you. You're not what and I'll talk about that in the intro. Oh, I know you have Bandcamp. Is there anything else that you want to plug for people to find your music, or any shows or anything?
The thing I would plug right now is I don't know how soon you're planning on dropping this, but we have a single coming out on September 26th called H2Ho. Um, the best way to support your local, um, your local artists or just your independent artists is to pre-save and help us jump through the corporate hoops that we unfortunately have to jump through in order to be seen and to be heard. So pre-saving really goes a long way, and it tells the Spotify tastemakers and the playlist curators that people want to hear us. It really makes all the difference because that's ultimately how artists are getting discovered right now is by landing Spotify playlists. Um, and if you don't land those playlists, then you really your chances of a new audience finding you is very difficult. So pre-save, let people know that you want to hear us.
You're going to be on some of my playlists, that's for sure. Thank you, Mickey, so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
All righty.
Appreciate it as well.